It is clearly marked right here. You need to follow the rules, period.
Your rules contradict the county survey. Look, the original marker is right there.
The roar of engines yanked me out of sleep, and when I opened my front door, cold morning air hit my face along with the sharp, burnt smell of fresh asphalt and paint. Big work trucks sat in the Cul De Sac, yellow strobes flashing against the houses like we were in some crime scene. Our HOA president, Karen, stood in a puffy vest with a clipboard, sipping coffee like she owned the whole street. I stared down the road and felt my stomach drop. The stop line at the end of the Cul De Sac was gone. In its place, bright white bars sat way up the street, dead center in front of my driveway. The HOA paved over the Cul De Sac stop lines 15 feet, and that stupid fresh paint had just turned my life into a mess. Cars now had to stop right at my mailbox, right where my kid usually waits for the school bus. I walked up to the crew leader and asked what was going on. He shrugged and pointed at Karen. She told me the board had voted on a safety redesign and the stop line was being moved to slow people earlier. I pointed at my driveway and asked how blocking my exit was safe. She smirked, took another sip, and said the decision was final, and if I tried to paint over it myself, I'd be fined. Curtains moved up and down the street as neighbors peeked out, then vanished. Nobody wanted to end up on Karen's bad side. She once fined a guy $200 because his trash can lid blew off in a storm. I tried to keep it calm at first. I sent a long email to the whole HOA board that afternoon with photos, asking for a quick fix. No reply. I went to the next meeting in the clubhouse on April 10th at 7:00 p.m. and laid everything out again. Karen cut me off by tapping her pen and saying the board had already approved it and I was wasting everyone's time. Another board member looked down at his shoes like the carpet was the most interesting thing he had ever seen. When I kept pushing, Karen said if I kept harassing the board, she would note it in my file. 3 days later, when I stood in the street taking pictures of near misses as delivery trucks tried to back around, a police cruiser rolled in. Timeline item 1 April 5th at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call. Karen had told them I was lurking around people's yards. That's when I drew my line. If she wanted to play with records, we would play with records. I sat at my kitchen table, hands shaking, while my coffee went cold. I counted how many times she had gone after me or my neighbors for nothing. There had been 11 silly complaints in 3 months. My chest felt tight, but my head got clear. I promised myself I would not break a single law, not yell, not touch that new paint. I would only use the proper channels. So I dug into the HOA rules, the CC&RS, and then the city website. Right there in simple text it said the Cul De Sac was a public street, owned and maintained by the city. Only the city could change traffic markings. I drove downtown on my lunch break and asked for the road file. The clerk rolled her chair back, hit a button, and a thick folder dropped onto the counter. The file landed with 63 pages. Survey maps, permits, original engineering notes. That road was mapped long before our HOA even existed. At home, I turned my dining table into a war room. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder. I printed the rule where the city said only they could alter stop lines. I slid in screenshots of every time Karen had threatened fines if anyone touched the paint. I wrote out a clean report of that false trespass call and the officer's card. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. It sounded simple, but heavy. Then I typed up a formal complaint to the city traffic engineer and city attorney, saying the HOA had changed public road markings without a permit and was blocking safe access to my driveway and my kid's bus stop. I attached everything and hit send. For the first time in weeks, I slept without seeing that white line through my window. 2 weeks later, on a bright Saturday, the trap snapped shut. The HOA was holding a family fun day in the Cul De Sac. Balloons, folding tables, music playing low. Karen stood at the sign-in table, all smiles, like the villain at the end of a movie pretending to be the hero. I was in my garage when I saw the city truck roll in, followed by a police car. Blue and red lights bounced off the houses. The music cut off mid-song. The traffic engineer stepped out with a rolled-up survey in his hand and a clipboard tucked under his arm. He walked straight to the folding table, unrolled the map, and smoothed it with his palm. Everyone nearby leaned in. The red X on the paper showed where the stop line was supposed to be, far from my driveway, nowhere near where it now sat. He said the HOA had 10 days to restore the original markings at their own expense and pay a fine of $3,000 for doing unpermitted work on a city street. Neighbors started filming on their phones. Karen's face went blotchy red as she tried to argue that she was just trying to make things safer. The engineer replied that safety decisions on public roads are made by licensed professionals, not HOA boards. He pointed at my driveway and said the new line created a hazard and blocked legal access. The officer stepped in and asked Karen about that trespass call. I watched his pen move as he wrote my binder items into his notes. He explained, in that column, heavy voice cops use, that while they take all calls seriously, they also track patterns. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. You could feel the air shift. People who used to whisper about Karen now stared straight at her like a mask had come off in public. The fallout moved fast. Someone posted a video that night titled HOA President Gets Schooled by City Engineer, and by Monday it had over 30,000 views. Comments roasted the board for trying to move a road like it was a lawn chair. At the next emergency HOA meeting, the room was packed. For once, people spoke up. Parents talked about near misses at the bus stop. An older neighbor said she was scared to back out of her driveway. When the board went into private session, it did not stay private for long. An email went out the next day saying Karen had stepped down as president and an interim board would handle repairs and review past complaints. Quiet talk on the sidewalk said she had also been warned by the city attorney about any more fake calls. On May 3, 2024 at 9:00 p.m., a new crew came out under portable lights. The smell of fresh paint filled the cool night air as they ground off the wrong line and laid the stop line back where the survey said it belonged, away from my driveway and the bus stop. No flashing strobes this time, no smug clipboard. Just workers doing it right. A neighbor walked over with 2 steaming cups and handed me one. She said she was sorry she stayed quiet so long and thanked me for taking the hit for everyone. Kids on scooters tested the new, old layout, laughing like the street finally belonged to them again. Now, when I pull out of my driveway, I see that white line down the block and feel something small but important, proof that you do not have to scream or break rules to push back, you just have to know where the real lines are drawn and be willing to stand on them. Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.